Hello, and welcome to the Oregon Business Matters podcast, brought to you by Oregon Business and Industry, or OBI, your statewide Chamber of Commerce. At Oregon Business Matters, we focus on insights, issues, and initiatives that impact Oregonians' shared prosperity and the state's economic health. I'm Angela Wilhelms, President and CEO of OBI, and your host here at Oregon Business Matters. Today, I am in the Rogue Valley here in downtown Medford, talking with Darren Van Lehn, Director of Sports Development for Travel Medford, which is an affiliate of the Chamber of Commerce for Medford and Jackson County, and a terrific partner for OBI. Travel Medford is the largest destination marketing organization, or DMO for those in the know, in the state, and we could do a whole episode about the many, many reasons to visit the Rogue Valley. But I'm excited to talk with Darren today about one particular facet of this regional marketing work and the development of an important part of Medford's economy and what the future might look like. And that is the sports and recreation tourism space. So Darren, thanks for joining me today. Let's talk some sports.
Yeah, sounds great. Thanks for being here.
Okay, well, listeners by now know that I am a sports nut, so,
Yeah.
But this is like host's prerogative. I get to talk about these things, but it's not just because I'm a fan of all things sports and recreation. I'm not just a fan of the Rogue Valley, although it's glorious out there today.
Thank you.
This is something we've been talking about for a while at OBI because sports and recreation really is a big economic driver that I think hasn't gotten the attention it deserves. So I'm really excited that a position like yours exists. Really excited to talk to you today about some of the things going off down here. So let's start with you. Tell us a little bit about your background and your role here with Travel Medford, and then maybe tell us a little bit about what Travel Medford does for the region.
Yeah, absolutely. So, as mentioned, my title is Director of Sport Development. I've been fortunate to have the opportunity to work in sports in some professional capacity for the last 10 years. I've been I've been a resident of the Rogue Valley. I guess a member, but
it kind of feels like joining a club.
Yeah, right.
It's great.
My family moved here when I was 4 years old. So, for those that can do math, I've now lived here 37 years of my life and, worked and been a part of the industry of tourism and business since I was 14 years old. So started in the food industry, started working at a community college after I graduated from SOU, and then Rogue Community College launched an athletics program. And I started helping advise and retain athletes and recruit them, and then kind of found this rekindled passion for sports. I was a kid who grew up playing every kind of sport, watched every kind of sport, just loved it, but never thought there was like a future in it, from a business perspective. And then, college made a decision. We had athletics now, and they needed someone to help build that program. And I went back to school, got a degree that would allow me to become an athletic director, and thought I was going to leave the Valley to pursue that, but then timing worked out great, and RCC created an athletic director position. I was fortunate to be hired into that and did that for the first 8 years of that program. That is how I met the Chamber of Commerce, the Southern Oregon Sports Commission, Travel Medford, because Angela, who's still here, reached out to me and said, hey, if you're ever going to bring an event to town, we help sponsor and support and do different activities for bringing sport events to the community. So, worked on bringing events in, felt like I should be a member of this commission, volunteered for 2 years, and then a bunch of changes at RCC and changes here all happening at the same time. And this position was created, an opportunity was there, and I decided to make the move into kind of a higher level of sports and community work, not necessarily with the individual, but with the groups that are creating those opportunities for people across our community. So It's been a fantastic change and really opened up and explored new connections in the community here and across the state, the region, and the country.
Yeah, that's so great. What good timing, both for you and the community. So you mentioned Travel Medford and the Southern Oregon Sports Commission. I mentioned earlier that Travel Medford's kind of an affiliate of the chamber down here.
Yes.
What can just talk about the ecosystem of those organizations and kind of what they do more broadly, and then specific to sports and rec tourism.
Yeah. So, everything that we just mentioned is under the chamber's umbrella. So, the chamber is both Medford and Jackson County. So obviously they represent business interests and the supporting small to large business, and how do we work together better? How does everybody grow? And, as overused as it is a philosophy here about the rising tide raises all ships. So how do we raise that tide for everybody and help everybody improve? So Travel Medford falls under that, specifically marketing the city of Medford for tourism, but also for, business interests. Would you want to move your business to our area to create more opportunity, bring employees in, things of that nature? And then the Southern Oregon Sports Commission is a nonprofit that is I oversee as part of my responsibilities, and that is dedicated primarily on growing culture of sports and sports tourism through advocacy, through event support, recruitment, and then also advocating for venue development as well. So they're all intertwined and kind of focus on their different areas, but ultimately underneath the same umbrella with the same goal of building and strengthening the community just through different lenses.
Yeah, that's great. Okay, so you mentioned facilities just a second ago. So
Yes.
let's go to that for a second, because Medford has some very significant facilities that contribute to the sports economy here. Got Lithia and Driveway Fields,
Mm-hmm.
Rogue X.
Mm-hmm.
I understand the pickleball mecca is coming online
Yeah.
here pretty soon. So tell me briefly about the facilities, especially the first two. How long have they been around, and what happens at each of those?
Yeah, so Lithia and Driveway Fields, 2008, it was originally finished and opened. It is a turf field complex, 5 what are known as flat fields, which could host soccer, football, or recently lacrosse is becoming big for us as well. And then 10 baseball diamonds, including Harry and David Field, which is a 2,000-seat stadium that our Medford Rogues play in, and it's kind of more of the traditional thought of baseball stadium, and then a bunch of turf fields that support that. So that was the vision of Brian Shotun, Rich Rosenthal, a lot of people before I even knew about any of this world, realizing the potential of something like that. And that kind of also then spurred the creation of the Sports Commission in 2013. It became a very popular facility. People were reaching out to want to host events there, bring their communities there. And someone had the bright idea of like, what if we went intentionally after things, which then led to this growth of sports tourism in our area, kind of a proof of process facility. And that is also the passion of the community that led to Rogue X, which was opened about 2.5 years ago. Rogue X, 140,000 square feet, 76,000 of that is basketball and volleyball court facility. So big open, rectangular room, but really, we've put car shows in there. We've put soccer tournaments in there, cornhole tournaments in there. And then of course your traditional gym stuff like wrestling, volleyball, basketball, but also has it has a competition pool and a recreation pool with water slides and a lazy river and things like that. So it's balancing the community support, which we had nothing of that nature in our community, with also then a huge facility that can attract large scale events. And as we mentioned, outside of that, West Howard Memorial, the grounds around it are being developed, which in a little over 2 weeks, we're opening our pickleball court facility, currently 19 courts, but will ultimately be 25 courts with a true championship court. They're adding sand volleyball, more soccer, more baseball. And they're doing a Vietnam Memorial that's being created out there as well, which is a great, piece for the West Coast to have, some of that tribute in a community that's very, very veteran focused as well. So, we're fortunate. I think it came from a community that lives and breathes sports, and it was like, how do we take this passion and turn it into something that can benefit the community in the long run?
Well, and the variety of what you just mentioned, I think, is so great. And just for our listeners, one editorial note: Darren and I are talking at a time just before the pickleball will open, and right about when the veterans. The Vietnam Veterans Memorial will open. By the time you hear this, they will both be open, and you should get yourselves down here right away to see them.
Yes, come on down.
Yeah, come on down. So, okay, well, I want to talk a little bit about the types of events you've been able to hold
Sure.
in these facilities because of their quality and coming online. Let's start with one that's coming in the future, because you mentioned cornhole, and I think this is great. So start there and then back up to maybe what you've seen in the last several years as far as some of the signature events that have been able to come here.
Yeah. So, cornhole is whatever you want to bring along with that. The reality is that it's been 22 years since they was organized professionally and people started playing outside of just your tailgate or your backyard barbecue type of thing. A gentleman by the name of Frank Gears was at a Bengals tailgating, saw a bunch of people, how much they loved him, was kind of like, I feel like we could actually structure and organize this thing, and the 22nd version of it will be held in Medford, Oregon. And so we started by just hosting a singular event for them, seeing how the community responded, how people travel to. And those events, we now hold 2 majors a year. We're launching a state championship this year. Those events, 2/3 to 75% of those people are not from the state of Oregon when they come to them. So really showed the sports tourism aspect of that. And that then led into proof of process. And we bid on and are now hosting the World Championships of Cornhole, which is a 10-day event, 96 courts set up, 2 live streaming courts, literally cornhole from 8 a.m. to 11 p.m. for like a week straight. You would think they get tired of it, but as soon as we close the facility, they'll probably set up a parking lot game and keep going, right?
Well, that's good. That's good.
One of the things we've discovered is, we generally call like a riches in the niches, is finding these people who are looking for a home and are willing to be a home for them. And, as you mentioned, one of our strengths we've come to realize is that diversity. Isn't that we put all of our eggs in just the baseball basket and that's what we're going after. We host, 25 different types of sporting events at these couple of facilities, which gives us more prospecting clients or events that we could bring in and not kind of hanging our hat on one single thing. And so because of that, we're hosting large scale youth wrestling events. We're hosting collegiate soccer tournaments. We have one of our biggest events is Memorial Day weekend. It's the Rogue Memorial Challenge. They have 197 teams that are competing over 3 days this weekend. So you're talking, thousands and thousands of people that are hanging out for the weekend. And, that one event generates like $3 million in economic impact. So how do we continue to capitalize on that diversity and help people build these types of events that bring people to town?
Well, okay. So speaking of some of the economic impact, there was an annual report for Lithia and Driveway Fields in particular in 2025, so last year. And that report says that visitors to the facility spent more than $78 million over the life of the facility so far. And last year alone in 2025 was $5.4 million, $1 million on lodging. And I find that these reports are often underestimating the true value because you don't know what you don't know. And it's better to extrapolate on conservative estimates, but that's a pretty big chunk of money into the community. So, I have to think the success of Lithia Driveway Fields then factored into the decision to do Rogue X and then, so on and so forth.
Yes, I think it propelled the idea of how you could take the concept of a community swimming pool in a complex and actually turn it into an economic driver, because we had lost our community swimming pool. We needed facilities just for the local people also to play basketball on a Wednesday night, right? We need to provide that for our local community as well. But if you build it to the scale that they chose, then now you're talking about bringing in large scale events that are 10 days long and kind of balancing between community and sports tourism type of focus. So yeah, the fact that Lithia and Driveway Fields in 16 to 18 years, the actual dollars spent is more than double what they spent to build it is proof of process. And then when you add the impact and all the ripple effects, obviously that number gets a lot bigger. And you're right, that report is about that facility. The event I just mentioned, the Rogue Memorial Challenge, only half of those 200 teams play their games at that facility. So the other half of that is spread out at the high schools and the different fields around town where we don't have an accurate count of what that impact is. So the reality is the numbers are probably higher than that. But as I said, it's better to go on what we can guarantee and we can prove. But it just continues to drive that conversation, right? What else can we build and construct that will provide support and benefit for the community? But then on those weekend events, we can bring hundreds of people, thousands of people to town. We're going to fill restaurants, fill hotels, and make all the business owners happy. And all that money then ripples out into the community. You
touched on something that I want to unpack a little bit too, which is we've focused so far on the big events and sort of the traded sector nature of these events, if you will, or these facilities and offerings. But they do, in fact, provide a real benefit to folks who live here and community building in that sense, which from an employer standpoint, which is the lens I'm always wearing, it's really great to have that because employers and companies that want to grow here and take root here need that kind of community-based activity for their employees. Mm-hmm. And they want families to have that livability as part of the experience. So if you could just maybe expand on that a little bit more and how the Sports Commission views serving the local community that's here in addition to that import, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. I think for us to go out there and sell ourselves as a market to bring an event to, we have to showcase that our community is one that believes in the value of sports and what it can bring to the table, right? And so the balance of the Sports Commission is that local advocacy for people who are we want you to be active, we want you to be healthy. The data shows that a lot of people quit sports as they enter high school, and more is, can we create a passion and a love for it? And then if that community has a passion and love for it, then when we go out and we want to bring 100 team baseball tournament to town, they're excited about it, and they're not kind of like, oh man, another big event coming into town for the weekend. It's like, oh, this is what we love to do. We're excited that people are coming to town to do that activity. And quality of life is a major aspect, especially if you're going to bring your hundreds of employees to relocate them to an area. You want to ensure they're going to have a good quality of life and whatever that looks like. So again, back to that diversity of options. We have all these different sporting options. We also live in Oregon, which is a beautiful place to live. So you have the natural beauty that surrounds us to help with that quality of life, and then just providing opportunity for your employees to be there. And so for me, it's when I got here, I said, if somebody were to look at Southern Oregon, I want them to be right away, be like, well, this is a sport loving community. So if I bring my event there, then they're going to welcome us with open arms and do whatever they can to make sure the people I convince to come here have a great experience and want to insist we got to get back to Medford next year again. So it's all chemistry experience. I came from the kitchen, so it's like baking, right? Like you need every ingredient to bake a good loaf of bread. If you leave one of them out or change it too much, you don't end up with the product that you want. So all those pieces have to be there to make it work. And one of those big pieces is just, community sentiment or pride around the idea of sports as being a thing that you're known for. And I think the facilities that we build showcase that and give opportunity to the locals, and then they get to experience new things. 2 years ago, nobody around here was playing lacrosse other than a small club. Got 50 teams coming in for a weekend in a month, and they're going to plan to double it over the next couple of years. So
Wow.
Would that have happened without our small little club and an interest in the facility to host it? I mean, potentially. But we know for a fact that because we have that, they were attracted to come here and expose a new opportunity to our community.
Yeah, no, I think that's great. And we talk a lot at OBI about ROI and the return on investment, that, public investment in something without, a return or outcome is not good.
No.
Like that's a waste of taxpayer money. None of us love that. But public investment in something that has real ROI that then leads to more public resource at the end of the day, that's exactly the type of equation we ought to be figuring out. And it sounds like you guys have found that here.
I think we're getting better at it. Yeah. And I think part of it is teaching that the sports tourism ROI isn't tomorrow. Like, if you're going to sponsor me with $100 as easy math for this event, I'm not going to turn that into $200 tomorrow. But a couple months down the line, I might turn that into $1,000 or $10,000 because of the time it takes for that impact to come. We just gave an annual presentation to our chamber and community, and part of what I educate on is, when you bring all these teams to town and they spend their money, the waitress that got more tips that weekend can now afford to maybe buy the new set of tires, which then helps that tire company, or the business owner can now remodel their bathroom, or a hotelier goes, we need another hotel, let's build another hotel. Or a business goes, well, we like what's happening here, I want to move my business there because I want to be a part of what they're building. And so there's people who are frontline benefits in sports tourism. If you own a restaurant, a hotel, an attraction, you're probably the first to see that benefit from a large scale event like that. But that money, as they call the ripple effect, eventually reaches the people who are big promoters of the chamber and the industry, an Adroit Construction, an Outlier, a Precision Electric, who are now getting an opportunity to build a whole new hotel because we need more space to put people in when they come to town, right? And so that has been a big part of me in a career transition, is just teaching people about the time for return on investment in sports tourism. Look at Lithia and Driveway Field. $35 million at first. I'm sure I wasn't here when it happened. Probably was a big conversation. It's a lot of money to put into turf in the ground. But it's 18 years later, it's more than doubled in actual dollars spent. So clearly that was a smart investment in the community. If within 20 years you could have built two of them and it would have broken even, right? Even twice as big. So, but it took 15 years to learn that, right? You didn't get your return the next year. It takes time. Same with Rogue X. It's 19 million or 17 or 18 million since it's open in economic impact, 76 million to build. But if we keep on that trajectory, the impact of it within 10 years will have been more than we spent to build it.
Well, and you're doing a direct impact comparison. And to your point earlier, it's hard to, you can't, economists can do this. They can extrapolate the indirect impact, but you get there actually a little faster than when you start to think about the ripple effects. So,
yeah.
So in this conversation, we've mentioned by name some of the facilities, and I want to go back to that for a second too. So we've talked about Lithia Driveway Fields, Rogue X, You talked about the Harry and David Stadium. Is that the? Did I get?
Harry and, yeah, that's correct.
Okay,
yeah.
good.
Harry, I was like, yeah,
Yeah.
that's
So I
right.
don't, okay, apologies, but
No.
yes, I got a fact check along the way.
Good for you.
But so those are three local
Correct.
companies, enterprises that have stepped up to support also. And this is an obligatory digression that I now want to make, where I think this is often lost on too many people in policymaking settings, which is that you have to have healthy private sector companies for this type of support also. So maybe it's something as grand as the fields or Rogex or the stadium, et cetera, but it's also the local Little League team. And, that lacrosse club probably has a small business sponsor
Sure do.
helping them get through the day. And so again, obligatory digression, but I like to pause and, this is where the private sector the private sector has to make money to be able to do those types of investments. And that's okay. Like,
Yes.
that's all part of the ecosystem that we need.
100%. The Sports Commission is a 100%, fundraised organization. We had 24 different small businesses who picked up a golf team in our golf tournament to help us raise money that way. We have 10 businesses who are year-long community partners, ranging from, large-scale businesses to medical services like Valley Media Care to like our local print shop that's been a chamber member for 40-some years. They're helping us cut all our costs on printing signs and things that are important for the experience, right? It doesn't work without both sides of the coin. From the mom and pop restaurant to the, 7-figure corporations that are building skyscrapers, right? If they believe in the value of community investment, that is that public-private partnership that, again, as someone fairly new to this side of the equation, I worked on the other side for a long time. I'm learning how healthy it is in Medford and how much time is spent on making sure that both sides are talking and working together so that small businesses succeed, large businesses succeed, they invest in their community and their community reinvests back into them, right? It's that symbiotic kind of relationship. Whereas, if you give me $500, tell me bring this event, now I just put 10 people into your restaurant and now you've made more money on that initial $500 investment, but I got to hold my event, so I get a win. Those people ate in your restaurant, so now you've just doubled your money by helping support me. So it is really important. And part of it too is how do we promote and connect small businesses and business of any type to the work that we're doing, whether it's direct advertisement or we created a Sport Ground Pass. It's a digital coupon guide, all free for everybody involved. All it does is drive people to specific businesses that want to be a part of what we're building and be promoted at these events, right? So it is a partnership, and we wouldn't be as successful without it.
Yeah, well, okay, so just playing off that a little bit, if you'll indulge me.
Sure.
So I'm down here in the Rogue Valley for a couple of days. I like to come down here as often as I can, just to connect with business leaders and economic development folks and community members about what's going on. And what are you seeing, though? You're here every day. So what are you seeing in the business climate and the ecosystem and the economy down here? How are you feeling about it? Are we optimistic about, where we're going?
I'm Good. Optimistic about where we're going. I think, Southern Oregon is still finding its true footing in the bigger footprint that is Oregon, right? Obviously our population is weighted to one side of the state compared to the other. And so part of that is just getting people like yourself and people in industry to come and visit our area and be remembered about what Southern Oregon has to offer on not only in our area, but just on a statewide level. The location, the beautification that we have in our area, and then the work that we're doing to help grow that. I think we're certainly optimistic in business. I'm fortunate to sit in on chamber board meetings and hear about growth and new business being offered, new businesses moving to town, opening new restaurants, things of that nature. And part of that is that we were able to show how much visitation that we can bring in, which of course is appealing to people in those industries. Optimistic, absolutely. I think the future is bright and exciting for Southern Oregon.
Good. That's great. And we will do our part, I promise, at the state level to try to help the overall business climate strengthen so that we can make it even more competitive to build on what you guys have locally and what you're able to offer through the Sports Commission. So what is the future of sports development, recreation, and sports tourism look like here for you? What's what's on the horizon? What would you dream of that maybe isn't already in the works, but you'd like to
Ooh, that's
think about someday?
a dangerous question.
Yeah, okay, maybe we'll
No.
rein that one back in until you talk to your board. But
Yeah. I mean, we have, it's not in Medford, but it's in Jackson County, which our chamber does represent as well. We have a facility that is getting ready to open in January. Primary purpose is emergency shelter and need, but when it's not being used for that, is going to have a same floor plan structure as Rogue X with 8 basketball courts and 16 volleyball courts. So, that's going to double the indoor court capabilities, the wrestling, the volleyballs, all those things on what we could scale upward from there. As you heard earlier, we have our new pickleball facility that by the time you're hearing this is probably already up, and our first tournament is literally starting right after the ribbon cutting 2 weeks from now. So that's incredibly exciting. We have a conference center that, we're working on, which, we hear conference center and people don't first think sports, but it's actually a really big infrastructure piece for the world of sports. Certain types of events like that conference structure, the breakout rooms, the flexibility that a conference center brings with it. Especially for awards and banquets and things that come, hand in hand with sports. If I have my ultimate dreams, I would love a closed roof arena of some type. That's a 365-day facility that would allow us more flexibility for modular spaces and indoor sport opportunities. But anybody that's interested in building more things that attract different populations, that's why I was really excited about pickleball. We don't have anything like that, right? So what can we build that we don't have that will attract new people? Maybe it's a new BMX course. Maybe it's a mountain bike park. Maybe it's something that can bring a different group to our community, right? And from a turf perspective, we could use lots more diamonds and flat fields because there never seems to be enough.
Yeah. Well, folks who know me know that I'm not going to let this moment go by without suggesting an indoor track and field facility.
Oh, yeah.
But there's probably lots of ideas and vision out there.
I think. Yeah, I mean, we're looking to, my counterpart here, Caitlin and I are looking to take a little trip outside of the state to a community that invested in indoor track facilities, and it has done wonders for them, and kind of pick their brains on how they got it done, because it's a big move and a big investment. But, Oregon specifically is that's what we're known for. And then just in my own research and learning about sports tourism, I discovered the piece of Medford history that is connected to University of Oregon and Tracktown USA and Bill Bowerman and the Fosbury Flop, if you know what that is, was invented right here at Medford High School. And so we actually have pretty unique history attached to that world as well. And that would be an awesome facility for us to consider moving forward as a community. And I'd love to get in some conversations on that.
All right, good. Well, there you go. My work here is done.
Yeah, right.
Well, Darren, we are about out of time. So is there anything else you want to share with listeners before I let you go?
I would be remiss if I didn't bring up, we talked a lot about public and private partnerships, and one of the great partnerships we have here is with the city's Parks and Recreation. Rich Rosenthal and his team do a great job of working with private industry to supplement some of the challenges that you might find working in the public sector. They believe in the concept of sports tourism, and they're the type of people, if we have an exciting event, we can call them directly. They'll pick up the phone and talk to us, and they'll work to try to clear schedules and create opportunity to bring in events. So, if you're in this world of sports tourism or you're working on it, like, the best thing you can do is try to build those types of partnerships where I can call the director of Parks and Rec and we can have a conversation and try to get something moving very, very quickly. From what I've heard, that's not as common. That's not my experience because, as I said, 37 years in one place, but that's a huge thing for us. It's a huge benefit that we, and their job of reporting on their facilities too. So we have data to back up the efforts that we're doing. That partnership specifically is extremely valuable to us. And then, just everybody out here, for us to become where we're headed, and our goal of becoming, top 5 and top 20 as a sport destination in the country and on the West Coast is, it takes our whole community buy-in to do that, whether it's the business sector, the hospitality, tourism, the schools, the education. It's all part of that puzzle. Back to that kind of baking metaphor. If all those ingredients aren't there, we're not getting that loaf of bread at the end of it. So just really thankful that we're lucky to be in a community that understands the value of partnerships and working together from day one.
Yeah, I feel like I should insert a carb loading joke now, but I'm going to let it go. Okay. But thank you for bringing up that public sector relationship, because It is important, and I think sometimes there is this instinct to distrust between the private sector and the public sector, and in some communities, that's real, and
Yeah.
it's unfortunately a barrier to getting real work done. And I love that that's not the case here, and that
Yeah.
you guys have built those relationships. Everyone kind of knows their lane. They know how to work with each other. They know how to come together when needed to solve problems, and all for that end goal of
Yeah.
like community building, economic development, and activity. So thank you for shouting out to those partners. I think
Yeah,
that's key.
absolutely. Credit where credit is due, and just excited for what we have going and all the momentum that we have behind it. I transitioned into this work at a great time where everybody really wants to see growth and opportunity. And usually coming from a world of education, you get a lot more no's than yeses when you have ideas. And this time in this place, they're like, how much can you get done and how quickly can you do it? So it's an exciting time. I think the future for Southern Oregon is really bright, and I'm appreciative to you and people who are taking the time to come down and visit and engage with us and try to bring the whole state together forward at one time. I think it's pretty amazing.
Oh, well, our pleasure. There's lots to do, and folks know I will come down anytime.
Wonderful. Well, thank you again.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Darren, for joining me. Thank you, listeners, for tuning in. Oregon Business Matters is a production of Oregon Business and Industry, your statewide chamber of commerce. Our episodes can, of course, be found on all your favorite podcast platforms. For more information about OBI, visit OregonBusinessIndustry.com. Darren, for more information about your work, folks should go to
SouthernOregonSports.com.
Perfect. Easy enough. All right. Thanks, everybody. Have a great rest of your day.